Empty bladder. Back in the game. Now, before we move on to the main characters, Will and Helen, there are just some odds and ends I want to examine in some detail. First, I might as well talk about the villains. Whilst the world bosses are forgettable monsters of the day, their leader Wiseman and his henchman Riella do a good job as antagonists, given the little screen time they have. Riella is a schemer that only appears once in each world, and whilst he isn't the scariest villain, mostly because he has a tendency to chew the scenery, he is the most effective villain and is also the one who openly confronts our heroes, so he does a good job of showing the audience why the characters are afraid of these villains. Wiseman has even less screen time with Riella and no backstory in the game itself aside from the creator of Nightmare, but he makes up for it by being imposing in every single way. His design is simple, almost inhuman, and he barely moves, making everything he does seem effortless. Even Riella, the prideful smartass, bends his knee to him whilst trembling in his boots. All of this is topped up by the fact that Wiseman is voiced by Roger Jackson, who has the most experience out of the entire cast. It gives him a voice that tells you just how powerful Wiseman is and why you should stay away from him.
You are already aware, I know, that they have quite a temper. Should you wish to avoid becoming their prey, I might advise you to take care as well, Riella.
That's not to say the other voice actors are bad. Casey Robertson as Riella and Jalissa Ogier as Knights do a good job with what little they have and make the characters sound at least believable.
Did you really think that I could lose to the likes of you? Don't make me laugh.
Riella, did you come all the way here just to nag me?
By the way, do you know who Jalissa also played?
Move! Give me strength!
It's a small world, isn't it? For Will and Helen, Sonic Team decided to use child actors, and whilst they're obviously not as experienced as the other voice actors, they do an okay job as the characters. In fact, Riley O'Flynn as Will can deliver some really good performances in certain scenes.
No, I won't let that happen. Meeting you has been the best thing that's ever happened to me, Knights. I can't let you!
And now we come to my last point. Whilst it's not a common occurrence, hence why I didn't give this a full section, every once in a while you get some odd lines or bizarre animations that make otherwise serious scenes unintentionally funny. So, without further ado, let the riffing begin!
I consign you to oblivion, along with this eyesore of a world.
And yes, I won't actually kill you.
A word, if you will, Master Wiseman. It is because of the visitor's idiom that...
Silence, Riella.
Yes, Master.
I don't like reasonable explanations.
Damn, would you look at that ball?
And just what do you think you're doing sneaking around here, Knights?
Riella, Knights was in chains 5 seconds ago and the kid's entrance wasn't exactly subtle. I think you need a new dictionary.
Go over and touch Knights.
You're making this way too easy. Anyway, that's all the small stuff out the way. It's time to focus on the protagonist of this story. Now, Will has one tiny issue that's affected his dreams in a big way. It's a very subtle issue, and don't worry if you don't get it first time, but I'm going to put some choice clips side by side, just to see if you can get some early hints of what's going on in Will's psyche.
Dad? Dad? My dad? My dad? My dad? My dad? Dad? Dad!
Aside from that, though, Will seems to have two main themes for his character. The first being the idea that he doesn't trust people, which does make for one interesting scene in the third world.
Someone who I thought was my friend. Well, I guess we weren't such good friends after all. So I...
You need to believe in your friends, Helen. You said you were good friends, right? Then you've got to believe in them. If you trust in your friend, then that trust is sure to get through. You've got to believe in your friends, huh? Yeah, right. I don't even trust my friends when we're playing, and I doubted Knights. some friend I am, huh?
But aside from that scene, this theme isn't put together very well. The moment of doubt he refers to occurs when he overhears Rihanna talking to Knight and discovers that it is a Nightmarean. But it only lasts for about a second, and then he goes back to rescuing Knight and teaming up with it anyway. And the issue with his teammates in the real world was never brought up before or after that scene. And it's even sillier when his ending shows him deciding not to pass to his teammates in a football game and run past 5 people in order to score. Such a trusting fellow. The second theme is a little different.
Dad, I understand now. I've been so concerned with looking up to you that I didn't look at myself.
Compared to the first, this theme is a lot stronger, as there are many examples where Will is quick to put himself down or blame himself for the slightest mistake.
Oh, splendid job, visitor. Defeating that giant Nightmarean was no small feat. Whoo!
No, that was just Knight's power.
This also provides the theme for the second world, where Al comments that the world looks barren because Will's heart is missing something. In this case, belief in himself. The only problem is this issue may be a little too subtle, or rather misdirected. Now I know I've already made this joke, but for the longest time Will's biggest issues seem to be...
Dad!
To the point where his first world, Pure Valley, is based on Will's memories of his father, and the third world, Delight City, is Will's desire to find out more about his father's world.
It's just that the city at nighttime, it feels like that's what the real world is like, for grown-ups. And someday, I'm going to grow up and I'll live in a world just like that.
And it does kind of work with the theme, since Will does rely too much on his father for support and doesn't believe in himself. But it's just so weird to see Will fixate on his father when ultimately his mental issues have very little to do with him. And in his CGI ending, Will's dad is there to watch the game, so... What? What was the problem? Did Will just not understand the concept of working for a living? I don't know, maybe it was just me reading too much into the clues the first time round. Maybe if we had 1 or 2 extra scenes where Will's doubted himself or the trust issues were given more focus, rather than have Will obsessing over his father, the themes would have had more impact. But either way, it still works as a character arc, and Will himself is a likeable character who does see his own weaknesses and tries to correct himself. Okay, the first cutscene shows Helen practicing with her mother for a joint violin performance, but she runs off to be with her friends at the first chance she gets, something which she later regrets.
I'm sorry.
Oh crap, Mum is angry! Anyway, the point is, this implies that Helen's character theme is responsibility or dedication. The problem is her character arc doesn't really go down that route. In fact, it doesn't seem to follow any path at all. After doing some research online, I came across a character profile that's supposedly from the game's instruction manual, saying Helen's nightmares come from the guilt she feels over how her relationship with her mother changed as she started to grow up and focus more on her social life rather than her childhood dream of performing the violin on stage. This sort of matches up with what we see in the CGI cutscenes, and her first epiphany is about Helen realising what's important to her. Plus, the concert scene we saw earlier was Helen rediscovering her passion for music. Honestly though, based on what the game itself showed me, this theme never crossed my mind. The first world, Aqua Garden, is a beach. That's it. No connection to Helen's character or anything. Just a beach where she and Knight have some fun together. The whole heart reflection concept doesn't show up until her second world, the Crystal Castle.
That means it was your heart that created this place, Helen.
My heart is fragile.
Which could mean pretty much anything. I mean, it could refer to the fact that Helen is frightened easily to the point where she was nervous about the harmless creature known as Octopus. But the gameplay contradicts this by giving her more solo missions to make her gameplay different from Will's vehicle sections, meaning that she's both brave and smart enough to challenge these monsters by herself. Plus, the whole reason she's here is because she has the idea of courage. You can't exactly claim that fear stops her from doing anything. It could also refer to her being easily swayed, since she leaves her mother to be with her friends, and Riallo is able to trick her into thinking that Knights has betrayed her, even though his only evidence is a mask that Knights wore precisely once. But one talk from Will instantly fixes her doubts about Knights, and she feels guilty about hanging out with her friends anyway, so yeah, again, not really a major flaw in her character. The third world is the Forest of Memory, which shows us that Helen has memories. Good for her. Is this supposed to mean something? Helen's fear seems to be the only aspect of her character that gets any real exploration, as her second epiphany is basically Helen saying, "I must stop running away from things," and growing braver as a result. So whilst the issues with her mother weren't executed very well, at least she got to show us how brave she could truly be. What? After all that? She's still afraid of the dark? Really? Sorry, my mistake. That clip was from Will's story, and that makes sense. You need Will to step in and save Helen because he's the character you're controlling. So naturally, in Helen's story, the situation is reversed and... Oh, come on! She can take on terrifying monsters by herself, but all you need to do to get her to freak out is to switch off the lights? Talk about backwards character development! This is the main problem with Helen's character. It's not that she's unlikable or had no thought put into her, it's that the writers clearly didn't know what to do with her. It's great if you know how you want your character arc to end, but you need to decide how you're going to get there first. Otherwise, you're just going to end up hopelessly lost. And that's everything covered. All that remains is my final thoughts. Honestly, I can't be too critical of this story. Sure, the script is basic and at times feels rushed or silly, but the concept itself is really creative, and there is an honest attempt to create a character arc for each protagonist and to give the story some substance. And when you consider that most games in this genre treat their plots as excuses, it's really nice to see developers going out of their way to write a story like this. In other words, this is a case where the charm and creativity outweigh the flaws, in my humble opinion. I've been the Jonin Monkey, and until next time, cheerio!
It is very romantic here. It is peaceful. The sun shines, the sea is blue. But there is evil everywhere under the sun.